In a valley surrounded by majestic rocky mountains, a young man overwhelmed by anger and pain was preparing to make an extreme gesture that would upset his existence. At that moment, as the sun slowly rose illuminating the top of the mountains, a Zen monk immersed in his morning meditation was interrupted by the heartbreaking sound of the young man's desperation coming from the mountain. With a look full of compassion, the monk approached the young man who was on the edge of a precipice, ready to let himself fall into the void. With a quick gesture, the monk grabbed the young man's hand, preventing him from making the fatal gesture, and begged him to explain what had brought him to that point. With a trembling voice, the young man confessed his sense of loss and disillusionment, describing a life deprived of meaning and hope. He was convinced that the end was the only way out of his suffering. He said, "There is no path here. I'm about to jump from the top of this mountain. Life has no meaning to me anymore." The monk, with his inner calm, replied, "We all have to face death at some time, but why so much haste?" The young man vented that it wasn't worth living in this world. He said, "Everyone is selfish and treacherous. The trust I believed in has been betrayed. My brother betrayed me, my friends betrayed me, and today even my wife betrayed me by running away with another man. After so many betrayals, life has lost its meaning. No one is trustworthy in a selfish world, and for this reason I have decided to give up on my life." Looking at the young man with scrutinizing eyes, the monk raised a crucial question. "Are you yourself immune from selfishness? Are you trustworthy?" The young man, after a moment of reflection, reiterated his loyalty and innocence in past actions, inviting the monk to seek confirmation of this in his village. But the monk was not easily persuaded. "Your true nature must be demonstrated over time. Stay with me in my temple for a whole year. Only then will I be able to confirm your sincerity." Accepting the opportunity to redeem himself, the young man followed the monk as his disciple, embarking on a path of verification and spiritual growth. The next dawn, the monk assigned the young disciple the task of begging, an act that would test his humility and his dedication to the path of transformation. The young man, still unprepared and asking for alms, found himself facing a difficult challenge. The words did not come out of his mouth while his pride and ego resisted the humility required by the act. Despite this, spurred by the need to prove his worth to the master, he persevered and returned with the requested alms in his hands. The offering manifested as a tangible sign of his commitment. The master, observing the result, admitted, "Perhaps there is a glimmer of reliability in you. I confess I doubted you could perform this act, but you surprised me. Come with me to my retreat. I have something to show you." Driven by a sense of sharing, the young man went with the master to his retreat, where a strange pot was revealed to him. "This pot is a container of poison," the master warned, "a liquid that can bring death without leaving a trace. Promise me that you will never use it." The days went by, and during an excursion in the woods, the master and his disciples found themselves facing an assault by thieves. In the confusion of the moment, all the disciples scattered to preserve their own lives, but the master, limited by his advanced age, could not escape. It was then that the young disciple, risking his own existence, courageously launched himself to rescue his master, bringing him safely back to the temple. Upon their return, the master did not spare any compliments for his brave disciple, praising him in front of everyone for the courage shown in saving his life. From that moment on, every morning, the master demonstrated his trust in the disciple, a trust that grew day by day until he considered him as a son. On the threshold of death, the master revealed his wish that his disciple would take over the temple after him, a task that the disciple accepted with a grateful heart, committing to carry on the master's legacy. However, after the master's declaration of his will, the disciple's anxiety grew every day, eager to take control of the temple as soon as possible. Every morning, the disciple visited the master, anxiously scrutinizing his physical condition, while his patience slowly ran out amidst a whirlwind of thoughts. The disciple sought ways to quickly gain power without arousing suspicion. Fantasies of extreme actions, such as pushing the master into the river, crossed his mind, but the fear of the consequences held him back. He wanted a solution that seemed perfectly natural. One day, while he was with the master in his retreat, the disciple's gaze fell on the pot, remembering the poison of which the master had spoken. Convinced that this poison could provide a discreet end to the master, the disciple secretly stole it and mixed it with his food. After consuming the meal, the young disciple retired for the night. But at dawn, the temple was shaken by a growing agitation as the master lay motionless. The disciples hurried to his retreat and discovered that the master seemed to have turned into a shadow, while the young disciple silently longed to finally assume the role of the master. An elder disciple was observing quietly, and heading to his retreat, he carried with him a medicine that brought the master back to consciousness. At that point, the young disciple felt overwhelmed with anxiety at the master's recovery. He could not believe his eyes. Aware of the situation, the master invited the disciples to continue their tasks and called the young one to him with a calm but penetrating voice. The master questioned the young man about his loyalty and his selfishness. Humbly prostrating at the feet of the master, the young man admitted his confusion, confessing that he did not understand how he could have betrayed him. The master responded wisely, revealing that he had never placed full trust in him, as only what he could directly perceive with his eyes was the object of his trust. Recognizing a lack of courage in the young man, the master said, "There are only 3 reasons behind betrayal: selfishness, greed, and envy." Questioned by the young man on how to free himself from selfishness, greed, and envy, the master responded calmly, "Look for the answers within you. As a human being, you have infinite potential. Scrutinize within yourself to understand the reasons for each change. Reflect authentically on what creates such changes within you, distinguishing positive changes from negative ones. This is a process that leads you to true liberation." Fascinated by the master's words, the disciple felt a renewed devotion that led him to declare, "Master, I ardently wish to become your disciple and discover who I am, and what the reason for my constant changes is." The master wisely said, "Around us there are many people who have never succumbed to selfishness, greed, or envy. They have never worked on themselves. The deception arises when one believes to be safe from the gaze of others and tries to justify incorrect actions." Looking into the disciple's eyes, the master continued, "Remember, deception inflicts deep wounds on the conscience of its victim, generating a sense of loneliness and sadness. To avoid being betrayed, always keep your eyes, ears, and mind open. Trust others, but moderately so as not to be exploited. Always keep your most important decisions under control and never give full control of your life to others." In conclusion, the master invited the disciple to constantly watch over himself, as the very deception he seeks to avoid can sneak into his own actions. He then said, "And if someone should betray you again, do not lose yourself, for every mistake offers an important lesson. After being betrayed, one becomes more cautious and careful. The important thing is not to allow betrayal to ruin one's life, but to consider it as an opportunity for growth and to move forward with wisdom." The young disciple, deeply struck by the master's words, immersed himself in intense reflection on the shared wisdom, thus embarking on a journey towards a more authentic life. Along his path, he had the opportunity to meet authentic and altruistic individuals, ready to share with him the noble journey of life. Loneliness transformed into a connection, and the weight of past relationships dissolved, leaving room for lightness and harmony in his soul. Understanding the importance of moving away from what hinders growth and happiness, the disciple realized that freeing himself from deceptive ties opened the doors to a fullness previously unknown. This Buddhist story reveals to us the importance of being authentic and sincere. Sincerity forms the sound foundation, whether it's of personal or professional nature. Essential trust in every human interaction is nourished by transparency and integrity. Those who choose the path of falsehood and deception not only compromise the trust of others, but also undermine their own sense of dignity and personal respect. Maintaining consistency with oneself and with other people promotes individual growth and the building of a reputation. Authenticity is not just an ethical issue, but a powerful tool for establishing lasting relationships and leading a fulfilling and satisfying life. If you have ever suffered a betrayal in a friendship, romantic, family, or professional relationship, share your experience in the comments and how it affected you. If instead you were the person who deceived, let this story inspire you to change. Thank you for watching this video. If it inspired you, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to seek wisdom together. See you in the next video.